Y'all, it is time for this beautiful, glorious, uneclipsed Taurus new moon. So let's dig in. Are you feeling it? Are you feeling the shift? Are you feeling a bit of a change in the atmosphere? I certainly am. And I hope that you're noticing little moments of unknotting, little moments of unclenching, little moments of stepping into more calm, stepping into maybe a little bit of serenity where it's available, and really just shifting out of the intensity that we've been locked in for the past several weeks. There are many changes taking place this week that all have to do with the timing of this new moon in Taurus. I mentioned a moment ago that this Taurus new moon is uneclipsed, and take a moment to think about the past 18 months since January of 2022, and just remember that all Taurus lunations in those 18 months have been met with eclipses, have been part of an eclipse series. So this is the first time in a long time that we can actually start to plant seeds at this Taurus new moon. And we want to, quite literally, because Taurus is the first earth sign, represents the abundance and fertility available amongst earth around us, amongst our natural resources, and using our best judgment to decide what we want to put our trust into moving forward. It's been tricky to have new moons here in this space for the last 18 months. We have been advised not to plant seeds because eclipses have been bringing in unforeseen information, unforeseen circumstances, portals into the unknown, bringing us things that are meant to be brought to us in order to start assessing, processing, and evaluating. Now that we have this new moon in Taurus without any eclipses happening, we're able to not only reflect on the past 18 months, think about what has entered into this part of our chart in this time, but get a sense of what we want to make of it now, how we want to begin making use out of this material that has arrived. So this is a very potent time. You may also know that Jupiter has literally just entered Taurus. This is Tuesday at 11 a.m. on the West Coast. And so Jupiter has literally just 30 minutes ago entered Taurus. We have finished up a year-long journey of Jupiter moving through this initiatory fire sign, calling us to step into a sense of authority, calling us to recognize the potency of our own individuality, and to likely stand up to others in the face of feelings of unacknowledgement or disrespect, especially with these last few weeks of Mars moving through Cancer. Mars moving through Cancer has really brought in a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions we've been locking away, things we haven't said. And Jupiter at this tail end of Aries has likely been loud for you, has likely been putting its foot down, asserting itself, calling people out or in for their instances of lack of care, or maybe just sitting with feelings of this nature as they've come up and really trying to determine what we want to do with them, what feels appropriate. With Jupiter now in Taurus, we are cooling off a bit. We're slowing down a bit. We're not so hot. We're not so hot-headed. We're not so hot-heeled. We are able to chill for a moment. We've got just over a year of Jupiter hanging out in a slower paced environment, really wanting to root into senses, into feeling, into enjoyment. And so some of that rage may be starting to reach a cooling point. What was boiling is now simmering, and what is simmering can eventually come to a still. right? And I think many of us need this energy. It's been really hot-headed out in the world around us lately. And I, for one, am really eager to just be able to relax for a moment, just be able to put that down and just touch base with our immediate physical realm, what our resources look like right now, what our energy looks like, what comforts we might need, and what we might want to do as we start to slow down. What do we want to fill that time and space with? And speaking of Mars, Mars is finally wrapping up its really tumultuous stay in Cancer. Just after this new moon on Saturday, Mars is going to move into Leo, immediately oppose Pluto, and really burn off a lot of this residue that it's been carrying, accumulating, emoting through, holding inside. Just like feeling all of those feelings is pretty uncomfortable for Mars. It does not feel like it's really equipped to emote those feelings in a clear, straightforward way. And I like to think of Mars stepping out of Cancer into Leo, being a feeling of kind of stepping out of a deep pool and being able to warm up and dry off in the sun. And from there, Mars is going to start to really step into self-assertion that it hasn't really been able to access while it's been in Cancer. The moon in Taurus has a number of conversations while it's leading up to this late degree new moon at 28 degrees. Once the moon enters Taurus, it immediately meets up with Jupiter, and we're off to a big bang. We are really just leaning into the leisure, the luxury of things, the moon being exalted in Taurus, and really leaning into this sort of fresh start that Jupiter is initiating here in Taurus. The moon meets with Venus, who is overseeing this whole lunation. Venus hanging out in Cancer, where Mars is leaving, softening some of this Martian rage, perhaps, before Mars leaves for good. And the moon has a conversation with this Venus. The moon meets up with the North Node, as well as Mercury, who has just stationed direct. And so we may be sorting out some pieces of information that have been dangling in the ether for the past few weeks since Mercury's been retrograde. We also endured a period of time where Venus and Mercury were ruling each other and couldn't see each other. So now that they're all able to get along and all on the same page, now that Mercury is direct, the moon is able to sweep through from this place of exaltation, feeling really grounded, feeling really supported, and just able to start to reach out and make these connections, tying threads together in ways we haven't been able to for several weeks, just smoothing out a lot of the crunchiness we've been wandering through, frustrated and confused. We also have Jupiter squaring Pluto in the midst of this lunation in the hours leading up to this new moon. What is that going to yield? To be truthful with you, this is a social planet squaring an outer planet, and this may be one of the first markers that reveals to us some of the broader narratives that Jupiter in Taurus is bringing out for us socially, as well as Pluto in Aquarius is bringing out for us collectively, generationally, globally. So I honestly can't tell you outright what that's going to look like. We're all going to be encountering it for the first time. What we can expect, perhaps, is Jupiter being a social planet and desiring to lean into luxury, to lean into reclaiming the body. Up against this planet that is about social power, we may be seeing the beginnings of some of the battle we'll be putting up against the current status quo. We'll see social groups starting to connect, starting to have conversations around what values we champion. And with that, we may feel motivated to begin chipping away at some of these broader systems. Again, what that will look like for us individually is really going to start to unfold with this first square. So keep your eyes open. While the moon's in Taurus, stay grounded throughout this process and just sit with what comes up. Just see what this is activating for you in your own environment and perhaps in your own chart to get a sense of what this is going to be yielding further down the road. And since this is a 28-degree new moon, that means that Gemini season is right around the corner. So I will be back to sit here with y'all in just a few moments to dig into what Gemini season has in store for us. So stay tuned for that. That'll be coming up in just a couple of days. Okay, let's go ahead and pull some cards and get an idea of what we are invited to plant, to assess, to move forward with in the light of this brand spanking new Taurus new moon. See you in just a moment. Okay, as you can see, we've got quite a narrative here, starting off with our Leo first quarter moon, our Scorpio full moon eclipse, and last week's Aquarius third quarter moon. So if you want to check out the full story, I'm sending you back to those videos now to go check out everything that we talked about here. It's been quite a narrative, and we're going to see how it all ends with what we're going to plant at this new moon. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Now, at this new moon, we'll be asking about the cycle that is beginning for us now. We'll take a look at what has been cleared away to make room for this shift to occur. We'll look at what this new cycle may look like as it unfolds before us. And lastly, we'll get a sense of how we can ground our intentions and ideas now. Okay. So, a cycle that begins for us now is the Two of Swords. We are making choices. And I love this as a cycle that unfolds because that puts a positive spin on this too. Typically, the two feels a little scary already. We've just jumped into the suit and already we're faced with some sort of blocked intuition. So the cycle that unfolds for us now, I think, is one in which we get clear on how this mechanism functions for us. Where is it that we have been pulled out of our intuition? Let's get clear on what we are feeling rushed into, right? We just talked about all of these Taurus themes, all of this slowing down. And perhaps some of what scares us in the Two of Swords is that we feel rushed to decide something and we're told that it's right or wrong, or we're convinced that one option will be right and one option will be wrong or bad. And so perhaps this cycle is one of deepening trust, since it's a Taurus new moon in particular. We are in a place where we are sitting with what feels uncertain and we're getting clear on what we think is blocking us, so that we don't need to forge forward in like the Aries vibes we've been trapped in for the past bit of time. Okay, what has been cleared away to allow this shift is justice. Well, isn't that potent? And don't we have a sword theme running through this spread? So what's been cleared away? Either something that was outstanding, something that was an injustice that needed to be corrected has been. Perhaps something we had been fighting for has now been accomplished. Perhaps something that we needed to advocate for has successfully been taken care of. There's no longer a need to battle in a broad sense right now, which is then creating space for us to tune into our own personal sense of battle right now, getting clear on where have I been putting up a bigger fight and where has that been contributing to a smaller sort of micro version of this larger fight in my immediate environment, in my personal realm. Okay. What this new cycle may look like as it unfolds. Oh, I love that. The Magician. Okay. So, I love this. The longer we are able to sit with what feels unclear, the more we are able to reroute into our intuitive powers. And the more we are able to trust that making a choice, however fraught, is necessary to bring us closer to what we're trying to accomplish, the more we can begin to activate our resources, the more we can begin to feel aligned with what we're putting into motion. Here are all these planets lining up, sort of all of them orbiting around Mercury in this image, this card being very mercurial, getting an understanding of what tools we have available to us and what powers we certainly currently possess to put things into motion. I love this because I love to see these together. We often hesitate at making a choice, yet if we recognize that starting by making that choice will catalyze a series of events that allows us to recognize what we possess, I think that helps us deepen that willingness to develop trust. How we can ground our ideas and intentions now. The Three of Cups. It's time to connect with people. This feels very indicative of Gemini season being so close, right around the corner. So while we are focusing on these themes of trust in Taurus and we're feeling activated, this makes me think of Mercury finally being direct now, moving forward in Taurus and able to make sense of what resources are available now that we've finished up this retrograde. And this Sun moving into Gemini vibe for sure here, showing us that it's time to start connecting with other people. It's time to start talking to others about what it is we're setting into motion, about the tools that are making themselves known to us at this time, and maybe talking about this fight we've been in, what we've been advocating for, and as we make those connections, seeing where more is possible, and also connecting with others about sort of this intuitive blockage, perhaps, that we feel we're experiencing, or rather this work that we are now able to do toward removing some of this haze, removing some of the uncertainty. And connecting with others brings us to a place where we are able to root these ideas and allow them to grow into something beyond this. I love this. This feels very fruitful for what we've discussed in the first part of the video in terms of the transits that are like unfolding around us in real time right now. And this is a really beautiful ending to some of the journey that we just experienced in the weeks before this new moon. I love an opportunity to root into trust where we feel uncertain, to feel some of the clouds parting around what's been going on, and to be able to choose whichever sword we're taking with us into this portal. Because we're going into the portal no matter what. But it's best to be able to sit with what feels uncertain and to go in as equipped as we can. All right, y'all. If you have enjoyed this, please like it. Please share it with someone. Please subscribe. I will see y'all next week, fully in the throes of Gemini season, and we'll be talking about all of the mutable lunations taking place. All right. See you then.